Have you ever been driving somewhere you've never been before and felt like you were suddenly going in circles? You wonder, wait, didn't I already pass that same building like 5 times? Dang it, I'm lost. What now? I imagine you know how to get yourself found again when you've lost yourself driving, but what do you do when you're lost, not just on the road, but in your work and even your life? Do you cry and scream? Do you move ahead and hope you miraculously arrive at the promised land by bulldozing your way forward? In today's episode, I'm going to show you a better way of dealing with and coming through that lost feeling. Hey, Creating Maven. I'm Joy Spencer, your Reframe specialist, with one important message. Your real work, it's not your job or your career. Your real work is what you create. And what you create is what sets you apart and makes you incomparable. It's your legacy. I'm here to show you a whole new way of working so you can create with your gifts, make a unique contribution, and finally get paid to be yourself. This is Reframe to Create. I used to get lost driving on I-495 in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area all the time. I'm talking before the time of GPS in all cars, when you had to print out your MapQuest directions for wherever you were going. Now, even before MapQuest, when maps were a thing, I was never in a situation where I needed to be the person reading the map. That was the other person's job. I have limits to my talents. So the thing with 495, in which I didn't realize, is that for some reason, despite the fact that it's called a beltway, I somehow got it into my head that it was a figure 8, like inner loop, outer loop. I don't know. I don't know. I can't figure it out. I don't know why. But the long and short of it, I was always getting lost when I was going places until one day when I got my hands on this really nifty map where they didn't just show how 495, 395, 95, and 66 work together, but they showed specific exit numbers. And kaboom, that's when the light bulb went off. Exit 27 was the exit off of 495 heading north to Baltimore. And for some reason, from that day on, just knowing that particular point helped me always get oriented on 495. Before that day, no matter where I got on, I couldn't understand where I was going. But ever since learning that single point in fact, it's the snap. I always know which way I'm heading depending on if the exit numbers are going up or down, if they're going towards 27 or away from it, no matter where I am. I have a reorientation point. It's completely changed my experience of 495, and I'm glad because getting lost is no fun at all. You know this. You can go around in circles and feel so frustrated when you're doubling back on the same landmarks. If you're stubborn, you might not even want to stop and just keep going and going. And I'm sure many people have shown up hours late to events using this strategy. Not good, y'all. Clearly, I've been thinking of getting lost a lot lately because, well, to be honest, this is me in my life right now. I feel like I'm going in circles and just circling around and around and passing the same work and life landmarks over and over again. I'm feeling kind of lost, y'all. I've been on autopilot and I know how to do that. I know how to chug along. Maybe you do too, but it feels like I'm in a fog and there's something just beyond the reach of my mind and it won't clear. No matter how much I pound the pavement and stay the course, I'm just going in circles at this point. And what happens when the reframe specialist herself can't get a reframe? Yikes, I think we're in trouble. And this won't do, and it's time to do something about it. If you listen to episode 51, From Scratch, you know this. From Scratch is my phrase for the year, inspired by the Netflix series of the same name. And in that episode, I shared what I learned from the main character, Amy, about how moving, releasing, and embracing certain things might be the thing we all need in this new year. And as I've been leaning into that idea, a familiar sense and feeling has continued to build, come towards, come over, and come through me. The last time I felt this way was years ago when I made a major change in my life by quitting my job and going on a new journey to create a new career. It's the feeling that led me on the journey to reframe, to create, and to you. What that feeling is a sense of completion and a sense of doneness. And why that feeling can leave me feeling lost is because it comes without a clear sense of what is next. Just a deep knowledge of what is done. Okay, so I'm done. What now? What next? Great. Now I'm totally lost. How do I reorient myself? Maybe this isn't exactly your same story, but you know what it's like to feel stuck and lost in your work. You know what it's like to feel like you're going around in circles and not knowing what to do next. This feeling is so important to examine and unpack because of everything I'm about here at Reframe to Create. Let's start with creating. You know that I believe that living purposefully is about making a unique contribution any way and every day you can based on what you create with your gifts. I'm here to remind you and myself that your work is not your job or your career, but what you create. Creating projects, products, experiences, services, or whatever else you will create with your gifts is how to reorient and organize your understanding of your real work. It's a way of understanding that your work is beyond the limits of a job title, a position, or a career. These things are merely temporary vehicles, but the real owner of your work is you, not your boss, your title, or your job. It's a new way of looking at work. It's a shift in perspective. It's a new story. It's a reframe. It's a reframe to help you get unstuck and back to your purpose and your responsibility, creating. So when you feel stuck and lost, as I do right now, it makes creating difficult. And the only way to get back to creating is to get a reframe. But sometimes the reframe itself is slow in coming and needs a little jump start. And that's where we can take the lessons from what to do when you're lost driving and apply those lessons to getting found again when you're stuck and lost in your real work of creating. First, stop. Press on those brakes and stop. When you realize you're going in circles, there is no shame in coming to a stop. Now is not the time to just keep barreling through and burning up gas and all your energy. Just stop. And once you stop, before you even think about getting started up again, you need to breathe. It can be so tempting to want to get unstuck and found again immediately, but we're often holding our breath and gripping the steering wheels of our lives with eyes darting back and forth when we feel stuck and lost. After we stop, we have to get back to breathing, inhaling and exhaling so we can calm down a bit. This often means we just need to give ourselves breathing space, take off the expectations, and let the load lighten. Only then will we be ready to reorient ourselves. Finally, reorient. After you've stopped, after you've taken some time to take a load off and breathe, now you can reorient by asking why and what again. It's like pulling out the map or resetting the GPS at this point. Maybe you need to question your destination and find a new one. Maybe not. Maybe the old one is just fine, but you just need to find a familiar landmark. This is what you've got to do when you're feeling lost. Stop, breathe, and reorient. And this is what I'm going to do right now, my creating maven. I'm not going to lie, this makes me nervous as all get out because I want to know the answer. I want to know what's going on with me. But I've sort of been here before. I've been in this place of knowing what I'm doing and not knowing what I'm doing. It's a knowing so deep I can't explain it to myself, talk less of anyone else. And when we want to explain ourselves, when we want to get permission, this can be a problem and it can keep us stuck because the well-meaning folks out there will try to help, but they can't help you right now. They can't help me right now. All I know is that right now I'm doing the thing that I know I have to do. Stop, breathe, reorient. And that's why I've decided I'll be getting my own reframe jump started for Q1 for 2023 and pumping on the brakes. I'm going to take a break from this podcast so I can breathe and reorient and come back with the reframe I need for you in the spring. What will I be doing while I'm away? What will you be doing? Well, I hope you'll join me on this journey. While I'm away, I'm going to be paying very close attention to my life and work and what's going on and asking myself a lot of questions. Many of the same questions I've been asking you since episode 1. I'm going to be asking myself, what will I create next? I'll be going back and listening to some of my favorite Reframe to Create episodes so I can really ask myself, what have I learned from this? How have I put this or that into practice? Will you join me? If you're feeling lost, if you've been going around in circles, give yourself a break and just stop. For me, it's specifically stopping the podcast just for a few months. But what do you need to stop? How do you need to stop? Where in your life do you need to stop? It's often not forever because the point of stopping is to get back on the road again once you're found. But maybe you need to stop for a year, half a year, a couple months, a month, a week, a day, something. But for goodness sake, don't just keep going around in circles and circles if you're lost. So here's my assignment for while we're away. Go back and listen to a Reframe to Create episode that you know resonated with you, but at the time, and even now, you haven't had time to put the tips into practice. Listen to it again and really sit with it this time. And call a friend, maybe even a fellow creating maven, and share with them what's coming up for you. Just because we're going to stop doesn't mean we can't invite our friends and accountability partners along with us on a reflection journey to get us ready again. They can be so important in helping us to get reoriented after we've stopped and taken time to breathe. Remember, your real work is not your job. Your real work is not your career. These are temporary vehicles for your greater purpose of creating with your gifts and offering whatever you create as your act of service. And it's your way of making a unique contribution in the world. That means your boss doesn't own it. Your organization doesn't own it. And because they don't, they can't deny you permission to be about it. They also can't grant you permission. You have to come to see this as something whose permission is already granted by virtue of the fact that it exists and is waiting in you to come out. You are the one who has to take responsibility for this and always put it in the best and most nurturing environments for its growth. Sometimes that will be one job. Sometimes it'll be another. Sometimes it will be no job. Sometimes it'll be volunteer work. Sometimes it will be in entrepreneurship and your own business. The venue matters, yes, but it's secondary. It doesn't dictate and it should not constrain you creating with your gifts. This work is so important for you. This real work is so important to me. And it's so important that I'm not willing to compromise on it. I'm not willing to go round and round in circles, getting and staying lost. I'm going to do what I need to do to give myself the reframe I need. And that means I'm going to stop, breathe, and reorient. See you in spring, my creating maven. Until then, remember to always ask yourself, what will I create? While I'm away, I'm not totally going to be ghosting you guys. I'm still going to be on LinkedIn, sharing lots of information, sharing lots of tips about sharing your stories, getting reframes about how to unleash the power of your gifts and continue creating and making your unique contribution. So if you're not following me yet, follow me on LinkedIn and stay in touch and send me a message. I'd love to stay in touch and hear how your journey is going.